Today we're going to be talking about naming polynomials. So we're not really going to be solving anything or like really doing any math today. We're just going to be kind of looking at these polynomials and giving them a name. So just like we have a first name and a last name, polynomials have a first name and a last name. So we're going to learn about where those names come from. So a polynomial, it's just the sum or difference of many monomials. Now, what does the root word poly mean? Many. What about the root word mono?
Thank you.
So, mono, what does it mean? Huh?
What?
It means one.
Same.
You ever heard somebody say mono?
No.
Like one-on-one? So, a monomial, that can be like 4x, or 2, or 3x squared. It's kind of like whenever you have like an equation, it's just like the little chunks that are in each equation. And the polynomial is the whole thing. So the highest exponent of a polynomial, that's what we call the degree. So that's one of the things we're going to use to classify and name these polynomials, is the highest exponent that it has. So we talked about standard form last unit. That was ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. When we're talking about polynomials here, standard form still needs to be set equal to 0, but it is written with exponents going biggest to smallest. So, for example, if we had the polynomial 2x squared minus 4x to the 6th plus 3. So that's a polynomial, but it's not in standard form because the exponents need to go in order from biggest to smallest. And negative 4x to the 6th, because the 6th exponent, that needs to go first. And then we've got
Ramsey, Ashton Reynolds, Keaton Schaefer.
Did you take some ag
I was sitting here doing my
It
notes.
says CTE.
we'll get these notes posted so you'll be able to copy them later, or you can call up somebody. What'd you say?
It's only standard form, you don't put the minus on it.
That's right.
You don't have to remember supposed to.
Not right here.
Yeah, if you get 2x squared minus 4x, you don't put the minus between 4 and 2.
Well, you still, the minus is because it's like a negative 4.
Oh, I see that. I didn't see that part.
So this is in standard form. Now, the number in front, so that would be the negative 4. Remember last unit we talked about the a term? We would use that for like, to find the vertex, we would do negative b over 2a, or in the quadratic formula. In this unit, it's going to have a name, and we call that the leading coefficient. Or sometimes if you're writing it out, instead of writing all that, you can just put LE, short for leading coefficient. So the leading coefficient is the first number when it's in standard form. Now, it's important to make sure you're in standard form, because if you're not in standard form like up here, it would be really easy to say the leading coefficient is 2. But it's not in standard form. So you can't just look at the first number. Even though it's not in standard form, the leading coefficient is still -4 because it's attached to the largest exponent. So it's super important to make sure you're in standard form before you name the leading coefficient. So those are the two things that we're going to use to name these polynomials, is the degree and the degree and the number of terms that it has. So like this one right here, it has 3 terms. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so let's talk about degrees first. So again, these are our exponents. When we talk about degrees, we're talking about exponents. So if the degree is 0, if 0 is the largest exponent, that's just called a constant. And that's just a number like 2 or 5, any number that doesn't have like an x or a variable with it. Those are constants. If the highest exponent is 1, if we have a degree of 1, we call that linear. So that's like y equals mx plus b. That's always a straight line, right? Because the highest exponent is a 1. If our highest exponent is a 2, I really hope somebody can tell me this one. We just spent a whole unit talking about it. It starts with a Q.
Quadratic.
What'd you say?
Quadratic.
Quadratic?
Yeah,
Yeah.
something. Quadratic. I said quadratic.
So you got mixed up between quadratic and quadrilateral.
There you go.
Quadratic. So you'd kind of think quadratic means 4 because of quad, but that would be too easy. So they like to make it fun and keep you on your toes. So quadratic, that's what we call it if the highest exponent is a 2. All right, what about a degree of 3? Does anybody know what that's called? Starts with a C. That's what we call cubic. So if the highest exponent is a 3, it's called cubic. And 4, if the highest exponent is a 4, who knows what you get? There's 4 of something in a gallon. 4 quarts. So 4 we call quartic. There's 4 quarts in a gallon. Does anybody remember in 3rd grade? When I was in 3rd grade, there was like a big Gallon Man poster. And you like learned a song and a dance. You don't remember that?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the Gallon Man.
It was 20 years ago, man.
Oh well. And then if the highest exponent is a 5, that's what we call quintic. And I don't have a good way to remember that one. So, and it's possible to have higher than a degree of 5, and there's names for those, but you don't have to worry about them. If it was like, if the highest exponent was a 6, you could just write 6th degree. So if it's higher than 5, you just say whatever the degree is instead of having like a cool name for it. If you want to impress me or Miss Johnson or whoever's grading the test, if you want to look up what they are on a test, just flex and put down like think 7 is like, it's called Cintiq. If you wrote that.
Longest form, for example.
Probably not, but
Yeah, that's just wasting my time, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I probably wouldn't do it either. Alright, so the degree, we've got that. That's the first thing we use to classify a polynomial. Second is the number of terms. So, if it's got one term, that's what we called up here. That's what we called this, monomial. Because mono means one. So one term is monomial. If it has two terms, wouldn't it make sense if it was like a quadnomial? Because this is 2. Again, that'd just be too easy. We call it a binomial. Like a bicycle. It's got 2. Alright, what if it's got 3 terms? I bet somebody can guess it. It's got 3.
Cubic nomial.
No. Think more basic.
Trinomial.
Trinomial. Perfect. Watch. And if it's 4 or more, it's kind of basic.
Nomial.
We just put polynomial. Poly is many. So you put polynomial with blank terms. So if it's 4 terms, you would say polynomial with 4 terms. If it had 6 terms, you'd say a polynomial with 6 terms. Alright, so those are the 2 things we're going to use to classify these polynomials. And just like I said, it's got a first name and a last name, just like Michael McKinney. The degree, that's what we use for the first name. The number of terms, that's what we use for the last name. So let's look at number 1 here. What am I looking at when I'm talking about the degree? What about the first number? What did I write right there?
Exponent.
The exponent. So when we're talking about degree, we're just looking for exponents. So there's really not an exponent on this one. There's really an imaginary 1. If you've got an x or some sort of variable, it's really raised to the first power. So our highest exponent is a 1. What does my chart say that's called?
Linear.
Linear. So his first name is linear. How many terms do I have? 1, 2. So we've got 2 terms. That's a binomial. So altogether, negative 3x plus 1, it's called a linear binomial.
So what we're doing is just putting 2 ones in.
Exactly.
So we always look at the first number, exponent.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you keep doing it because I'm getting too far.
Okay. All right, number 2. What is the largest exponent that we have? What'd you say? 5, right. So 5, what's it called? Quintic. And how many terms do we have? 1, 2, 3. We call that a trinomial. Y'all playing footsie over there? So we got a quintic trinomial. Alright, what about number 3? It's kind of tricky. So it's a constant. So it would be linear if it was like 24x. If it doesn't have an x or a y or some sort of variable, then it's just a constant. So it's a constant and it's just one term. So constant monomial. All right, on number 4, what's our biggest exponent? 3. So what do we call that? Cubic. And we have how many terms?
Does a hash count as a term?
Yep.
Polynomial.
We got 4 terms, so we call it a
Polynomial with question mark.
polynomial with 4 terms. Alright, you all do 5 and 6 and try out 7 and 8. They're a little different, but I bet you can
Hold on, will
do.
x count as a term? Like a fraction?
On number 6?
Yeah.
Number 7 and 8, you're just kind of doing it backwards. It tells you what you're going to get when you get to create the polynomial. Alright, Victoria, what did you get for number 5?
I put quadratic trinomial. So your biggest exponent is a 2. So that's how we get quadratic. And then there's 1, 2, 3 terms. Good job. Number 6. Michael, did you get number 6?
Yeah. Quartic monomial.
Quartic monomial. So there's only one exponent, so it's the highest one. And it's a 4. So you get quartic. And it's all one term, so monomial. Good. Does anybody want to volunteer for number 7? 5x to the third plus 4. So your highest exponent is a 3. That gives us cubic. And you've got 1, 2 terms, so binomial. Perfect. And you didn't have to write 5x cubed plus 4. You could write a ton of different things. As long as the highest exponent you have is 3 and you have 2 terms, then you're good. You could have put 10x cubed minus 17 and it's still right. Alright, what about number 8? Anybody want to volunteer for it? 24x to the 1. Good.
That would be a fraction.
Do what?
So we make that one a fraction.
It could be.
Like, I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Either of them could be a fraction. It could be 24x to the 1 is right. You could write
That's just 4 over 3x.
1/2 x.
No, I did 4 over 3x.
4 over 3x what? So you could do 4 over 3x, but you couldn't
That would
do.
make it a
Yeah,
highest exponent.
that would make it quartic.
So it has to be 1, right? 4 over
Yeah.
3x.
Yep, as long as the x is raised to the 1 power, and you don't have to write the 1, it's kind of assumed if it's not there. But if you do write the 1, I mean, it's just as right. On
Alright, so what questions do y'all have about this stuff? These notes? Yes.
What the whole unit is.
Is this what the whole unit is? The whole unit is on polynomials. It's not on like naming polynomials. Really. This is definitely the easiest part of it. So, but it's not. I mean, there is stuff in this unit that's a little difficult.